So this is birds of a feather, and what it's designed to do, and it really didn't need a microphone, but what it's designed to do is be a cracker barrel, and what I'd like to do is the best thing that you can do is networking with campground owners. And though we are all here, sometimes Mike and I, even though we're campground owners, we don't get to talk. We have the same campground size, same things going on, but during convention, we just never get time to touch base. There are people in this room that knew or whatnot that I don't know. I haven't sat down and talked to you. I haven't sat down and talked to you. So this is designed to sit down together. What we're going to do is break up into a couple different groups and put like-minded campgrounds together. If you don't think that you fit that and you fit another group, by all means, you go into that other group. But what I'd like to do is, because you have campgrounds from 0 to 100, we could probably go up to 125 and put those in one group and then put the other half in another. There are different campground sizes, small, medium, and large. But I think we can go from 0 to 125 and then from 125 up. And let me just tell you, because you might be a small park and you might be a large park, we all face the same things, just on different scales. And so if you're in one group and you think that it would be beneficial for you to be in the other group, by all means, switch. So if I could have, yes, sir.
I just want to ask one quick question before we break up.
Yes.
I've talked to a couple campground owners about this, and I'm getting all over the board, from making a profit center to not allowing it. What's everybody going to do? What's everybody's opinion in regards to when marijuana is legalized in Wisconsin? It's going to happen. Surrounded by it.
Everybody hear about that? About if and when marijuana becomes legalized? What is it that, I think it's up to the individual campground owner and their decision, just like the carry and conceal.
Yeah.
I think it's going to come down to that. Mike, do you have any thoughts on that? I'm putting you on the spot.
I'm just thinking the whole thing with legalizing it, the fact that, well, people think that it is coming to this state, I think it's a huge mistake if Wisconsin allows it, if it legalizes it. But we're going to have to deal with it if they do legalize it. Could you still prohibit it in your own campground?
Right, right.
Prohibit it just like you would alcohol. If you did, some campgrounds don't allow alcohol, but I would think that you would just treat it as you would alcohol.
There was that time that we had the carry and conceal, and we were all going to put together those signs that we were supposed to post in our store that says we don't allow or we allow. And, that's that fine line. Do you put that sign that says that, you cannot carry? But then what happens if there's an issue at your park and somebody happens to have a weapon and actually saves a situation from happening? So it's that gray fine line, I think, of, what do you do? Sometimes, I know for me, though I don't allow carry and conceal, I don't even post that though, so.
I got a big enough voice in
I know, but they want to hear you.
Okay, as far as a concealed carry, you brought that up and stuff like that. I used to be safety and quality in the company I worked with, and I did find out that if you do post signs, you have to be able to enforce those signs. If you can't enforce those signs, you're accepting risk or liability in regards to that. I guess the only question I have as far as the legalization of marijuana, and I do agree with you, I do not see a positive to it with the exception of another tax base for the state. That's what they're looking at for the most part.
Every state around us right now is now legal.
Yeah, I believe every state around us is legal. It's going to come here whether we like it or not. Correct. Like for us, we all both work outside of our campground. My wife works in an industry which is FAA regulated, which is zero tolerance. So even secondhand, if she pops a positive at work, they're going to walk her out the door. So long and short of it is that we're going, from our standpoint, we're looking at it to the point that we can't stop you from doing something inside of your camper. But in the common areas of the campground, we're going to prohibit it. If we find it, we're going to ask you to take it back. If you don't take it back, I'm sorry, there's a road.
You're being way nicer than I am, because if I catch you doing it in my campground, you are done, out, hook it up,
Yeah.
pull it out. There's
We're still under discussion.
Your job is,
Maybe we should have a husbands and wives working together in a campground. Yes, ma'am.
Well, there's also the issue of if it's legal and you're smoking it on your site, smoke drifts, people. What do? You know, you got kids in the next site. I'm sorry, my child does not need to be exposed.
the
Exactly.
site's mine.
Yeah,
The site's mine.
Yeah, the sites are
Your
all
trailer is yours. Go ahead, smoke it.
Right. You have a good point of, if it is legalized, you had mentioned earlier that, if you want to do that in the privacy of your own camper or home. But when you go outside into your campground, you say no. I would think that what we would do is probably consult Mark on this issue and see legally what we can and what we can't do. Because, yes, well, it's going to be coming down the pike real quick. Anybody have any more issues or thoughts on the?
Just a thought on what is the concern, or how do people handle the vaping situation then versus smoking?
Did you hear that on the vaping? Anybody have any? Richard, do you allow it in your bar or restaurant? Yes.
Near the playground area, that's the tough one. Just a no. Do you post that? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no smoking, and that kind of covers the vaping.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, and more of the young people are doing it, and it's a situation where, where do you draw that line? Yeah.
The law on vaping now, I believe you have to be 21 to buy vaping products, correct?
Yeah. So, what's that?
I said, that doesn't stop anybody under the age.
No. And you've seen the spike in I'll say children, young adults vaping. You've seen the spike. It's huge. So, right.
The fact that it's 21 probably makes it a little bit easier on our end to say it's not allowed, correct? Because they're going to be breaking the law. So that probably helps us out a little bit.
Well, I apologize for hijacking it.
No, that's what this is for. Just consider it like a class like last night, right? A class like last night at the bar, where we all get together and talk. That's what this is designed for, but we're all sober. Yeah, we're all sober. Yeah, no, it's too early. So does anybody have a generalized question that would entail the whole campground in a nutshell?
I kind of brought it up a little bit earlier, but what are we going to do about the pandemic situation where we've got an industry that's probably one of the safest ones because everything's outdoor, not a lot of contact, but how do we get that message out? And I think we should try to do it very early. All our reservations are very good, but next week it could, the phone could stop ringing too. We don't know about that. I came in Wednesday and I was very optimistic about putting a ton of money into the campground this year, and then I wake up this morning and I'm like, Mom, they're closing Disney for crying out loud. They don't do that. That could be a month. So what are the ripple down effects with that, I guess, is my question.
Now, I haven't cleared this with my wife yet, so. But long and short of the whole thing is, our daughter-in-law takes care of our media, and I'm gonna have her post something that we're gonna do the best we can as far as cleanliness and keeping things clean. And also from our perspective, as far as our customers, we're all seasonal sites, so we don't have a lot of we don't have any transients really. But I wanna, be visible to the point that maybe we're gonna clean more often than what we did in the past. Now, on the same respect, should we have always cleaned that often? Okay, right now we're going to another extreme at this point.
Okay, first of all, I clean on Fridays before people arrive typically, so they don't see me. So
And then,
clean
yeah.
every to Saturday,
Do
so
I
they
need
see
to,
me.
do I need to
No, it's
send
good.
them in? Okay.
Okay. No, but we're just gonna be more visible in regards to, the cleanliness of the area as far as transfer and such like that. We're just gonna be more visible. We are gonna make a statement on our webpage or on our Facebook page that we're gonna do everything we can to curtail it.
So you all know that today is Friday the 13th, right? That doesn't scare me either. I don't care. But what I was saying, it popped in my head this morning. Okay, it's Friday the 13th. I'm going to go on my Facebook page later and say, hey, it's Friday the 13th. However, don't let that stop you from coming. We're closer to camping. It's nothing to be afraid of. Wash your hands. Wash your hands, people. And don't panic, because when you panic, then you are not thinking clearly. You are making irrational and just stupid decisions based on something that may never happen. I'm presuming nobody in here has a fever or any of the symptoms, so I feel perfectly safe shaking somebody's hand. And if you don't, that's okay. Apparently the Japanese bow to one another. I think that's a perfectly legitimate thing to do too. So, I understand there's a group of people who are more susceptible to this. People who have underlying health issues and all the rest of that. Yeah, there's a group of people who are more susceptible to that. I would be very conscious of that and say, look, we understand that, and like this gentleman said, just make it more obvious that you're making every effort to make sure that their experience is safe, and it's like, you're going to be outdoors for crying out loud. Come on, it's going to be okay. Social distance is 6 feet. You can stay 6 feet away from everybody. So,
Thank you.
I was just going to say that my husband belongs to several Facebook Wisconsin camping groups, and the consensus on those right now is that it doesn't matter. All the majority, he said, there was only like one person that was panicked, said that they still felt they would go camping mostly because they bring all their own stuff. So right now, the campers feel okay.
How do we get that message out?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I saw one of the campground owners last night posted on the Wisconsin Camping Facebook group page saying, we're at the Waco show, and all the campground owners agree that we're still open for the season, and a lot of people were commenting, and it was all positive. I didn't see any negatives on it. So I think as long as people keep talking about it on social media, I think that'll help us.
Something to that, someone was saying last night that if you think about it, and this would be something to remind people of, that they're bringing their home with them. And they can keep that sanitized the way they want. They can decide who comes in and out of their home, so they really can limit their exposure for them and their family. And maybe mentioning things like that for the people who are going to go out on Facebook or whatever, just remind them of that fact. They'll kind of say, oh, well, that's true. They can keep their home as clean as they want and limit their exposure. They don't even have to use the public bathrooms. A tenter, of course, but for the people with RVs. So just to kind of remind them of that stuff, and it'll kind of like, oh, that's true, and get that discussion going.
I'm just kind of curious, everyone, how do you guys do with your cleaners and stuff, though? Because my only concern, I don't want to sound like the panicker right now and going out buying enough products for the whole year, but do you guys typically stock enough hand sanitizer for your entire season, or do you just kind of weekly pick that up? Because now I'm thinking I maybe need to hoard a little.
Well, we've got a year's supply already. I could bank off that right now.
Right.
Like when Costco or Sam's Lysol, you know, the Clorox wipes, we probably have 45 packs right now on hand and 40 cases of the toilet paper. I'm like, I don't need to rush out and buy toilet paper. That's crazy. The food shelves are full, but toilet paper's empty. I don't get it, but no, we're stocked up.
Do you stock for a year typically?
Yeah.
Is that what most of you guys do, like 1 year in advance? Or do you-
So the question was, does everybody that has campground, obviously, do you have enough product, toilet paper, sanitizer, wipes, whatever? Do you carry that much inventory for your, a show of hands? Why don't we do a show of hands? Who has enough inventory to carry them for 6 months? A year? We're all buying from you. So, I will say that I think it's important that seeing those same remarks last night on Facebook, I think it's a good thing to get out there, put it out on your Facebook, post it on your website. You know that we understand what's going on in the days that we're living today, and that, you know, we are outdoor hospitality. We're basically outside. The family is going to be in their own unit, so to speak, together. They're not going to be in groups of 40 in one camper. And that, you know, if there's anything that you can do, it would be taking a few extra steps. And maybe it's to make us more vigilant on our cleaning practices, you know, to get us all.
Not that worried about all that. I'm saying, how does Waco get a message out? You know, maybe as an industry, I mean, we're the safest industry. That's why, you know, we are the safest industry out there for the outdoor hospitality, and we're basically small groups. We're not gathering by the thousands when we're in a camping situation. So how as Waco, how do we get that message out? This is the first pandemic we're going to have right now, but who knows, 6 months from now there could be another one, a year. This isn't going to be our first one. So we better ride this thing out and get that message out right away is what I'm trying to advocating right now.
We need a big media push that says, can't go to Disney?
Right. So I think that's a great point, and so as a board member, I'm going to take that to Lori and Mark and see if we can get something out there right away.
I was just going to reiterate that we received a letter from our franchise this morning to go ahead and utilize, to be consistent, if Waco would do that from the top. It's probably the wisest, and that's what our franchise is doing, is put that together for us.
Right. So as soon as we're done with this class, trust me, I will be walking out there, seeing if I could get Mark and Lori together and see if we can get something, and not only have it out there one time, but put it out there a couple times, just so. What's that?
Some sort of campaign.
Right, a campaign, just to keep it prevalent for, you know, that it's always visible for them to see.
I know that I have friends back in Oregon State, and the Catholic Church there, the Archdiocese has said, we will give special dispensation for people not to go to Mass and not to take, communion because of this. And it's like we need to get out in front of it and say, it's okay to go camping. It really is okay to go camping. Again, it's that let's not panic.
Right. I'm hoping that in 30 to 40, less than 45 days, that this is going to be one of those situations where we go, coronavirus? What was it? Swine flu, you brought up swine flu. Again, same situation. I'm hoping that's, what's going to come of this. But again, we don't know. So does anybody have another topic before we break into groups? I'd really like to break into groups because one of the things is, get to talk to the campground owners. Again, there's people in this room that I just don't get to mingle with and pick their brain, and that's what it's all about, is networking, learning tips and tricks, and building those relationships. It's all about relationships, in today's world. It was back in the day too, but always having that support where you can rely on somebody or call them up or email them and say, hey, what do you do in a situation like that? I mean, it's totally invaluable, you know? So if I could get 1 to 125 over on this side, and then over 125 over on this side. And if you guys would like to introduce yourself, your campground, your name, how many sites you have, and start going around and just talking about some of the issues that you face in your campground type. Again, if you don't feel comfortable in one group, by all means, move to the next